Lae MP to meet with evicted residents. PNG Businesses focus on SDGs. And education online selection launched.
This is the National MTV News with Meribah Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for today's news. Lae MP John Rosso has called for an urgent meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow with residents who were recently evicted at 3 Mile and 4 Mile in Lae. He has also called for community leaders who allegedly facilitated the illegal land dealings to come to attend the meeting as well. Up to 15 families have been affected.
15 families have been affected by a string of evictions in the 3 Mile and 4 Mile areas in Lae. Many of the evictions have been done very quietly and have targeted families that have little financial resources and little ability to go to court.
Tomorrow,
2 weeks ago, Denipa Ovi was told that the land he had been residing on for 9 years had been bought by someone else. This morning when the Lae MP went to 4 Mile, they told him more stories about evictions targeting elderly people and widows. Pound John was given an eviction notice. She was told to leave the house she had lived in for more than 3 decades. There are many similar stories. And John Rosso has since called a meeting for 9 a.m. tomorrow at the Police Metropolitan Headquarters in Lae.
You come on one paper, you got all two got one paper, all got. Me by looking for housing corporation, workman staff too, all two must come on the landslide. So you miss now, me I'm good. You miss Kelly talk na lugem.
He's also invited the community leaders who allegedly facilitated the land sales to come forward and explain. Scott Waide, National MTV News, Lae.
Police and members of a community near the Tapo River in Madang have recovered the body belonging to a senior police officer who drowned in the Tapo River last night. The name of the officer is being withheld until the family has been informed. He was one of 2 officers who were swept away while attempting to cross the river in their police vehicle. They were attending to reports of hold-up and kidnapping along the Usino section of the Lae-Madang Highway. Members of the Madang business community and the local community are following the riverbanks to locate the other missing policemen. Papua New Guinea Business Council President Robert Nilkare says the private sector has a great role to play in the country's development. He was speaking at the soft launch of an online portal called the SDG Dashboard. The online site will store information of participating companies' practices and community work as their contribution towards achieving these sustainable development goals.
Mr. Nilkare says businesses must work with the national government to improve their employees' welfare and the communities they interact with.
It will mean that for the first time, companies can show what the sector is doing, whether it's agriculture, oil and gas, retail, or companies individually, for example, New Britain Palm Oil Steamships or SP Brewery. We can show clearly how our company performance is achieving the SDGs in line with what the government's expectations are, because the government will be achieving certain goals, and we as a company will achieve certain goals, and obviously continue to do that. But it's about finally recognizing it, and as a company, I don't think we know about it, but to be able to sort of compare notes with the government for the first time, I think that's quite important.
The Papua New Guinea Business Council, in their efforts, has partnered with the United Nations Development Programme to monitor the impacts of their business decisions and community support programs, and thus has birthed the Sustainable Development Goals for Businesses website, the SDGs Dashboard.
Papua New Guinean businesses have provided some data which we have translated into a platform. And what this platform will do is tell the story to the whole of Papua New Guinea about businesses' contribution to the development of the country. Not just about creating jobs for people, of course businesses do that, but also the way in which they contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's a live platform, so by the time we have the APEC next year, I know that the Business Council will also launch it fully with all of the, properly with all the information from all the business council members and so on. So it's a very, very exciting moment today.
The soft launch of the online portal was developed by Indian data analysis company Social Cops. So far, participating companies like South Pacific Brewery, Bank South Pacific, Rimbunan Hijau, and Puma Energy, amongst others, have shown interest.
From publicly available sources, so government data sources, and we're layering that with information that is coming in from businesses. So, for example, we've actually created these industry-specific questionnaires and a data collection system that has been deployed for the 6 businesses that are currently part of the initiative, and they've been submitting data to us. So there's primary data that's coming in from businesses, and that's being layered with publicly available data sources such as those from the World Bank, such as the census, and so forth.
Harry Agimbari, National MTV News.
Meanwhile, PNG Business Council President Robert Nilkare says the recently passed budget must concentrate with development in regional areas where agriculture is a major player. Rigo MP Lekwa Gure also shared similar sentiments with 80% reduction in the DSIP funding.
They are talking about in the budget putting emphasis and putting money back into agriculture and infrastructure, which is important. Certainly, I mean, if you develop the infrastructure around agriculture, certainly you will create the jobs. That comes hand in hand because you need manpower to do any sort of agriculture project around the country. For the budget to be sustainable, and yes, the government is going to draw on huge loans. It comes back to the collection side of things. And I think they're making inroads into trying to fix up the taxation and collection agencies to do what they're supposed to do.
Given a very tight financial situation that the country was in, an agreement was reached with many of the MPs, especially the governors, to cut, especially with the DSIP, by 80%, and that's true. For the remainder of this year, most of the MPs, both at open members and the provincial governors, were only given 2 million kina. So it's not a lot that you can do. You can do some activities, but not a lot. So in the case of Rigo, we are using a little bit of that money for the 5-year development plan that we are writing at the moment.
The joint supervisory body meeting between the national and autonomous Bougainville government is scheduled for tomorrow in Port Moresby. This comes after concerns were raised on the continuous deferral. The last JSB meeting was held in Kokopo, East New Britain Province, in May last year. The United Nations has called for the meeting to be held before 2018. One critical agenda is the establishment of the Bougainville Referendum Commission and issues leading towards the 2019 referendum. The Resource Owners Federation PNG is calling for an equal playing field between mining operators and resource owners. President Jonathan Pariah told MTV News too many agreements or understandings are being signed, where about 90% of which are not achieved. Mr. Pariah said the national government and mining operators must consider issues presented by resource owners.
Contracts.
Mr. Pariah says Resource Owners Federation of PNG has kept a tight lip over the years. He says with more complaints raised by resource owners around the country, the government and mining giants must pay equal consideration.
People around Papua New Guinea, especially the resource owners in oil and gas and mining, want more equity. And it is the government that is overlooking them. So it is about time we should learn from Tanzanian government, and PNG should follow suit.
Recent threats in the PNG LNG project have cost the government millions as resource owners demand outstanding payments and benefits derived from the project. Mr. Pariah believes laws and regulations of the mining and oil and gas sector need improvements so landowners benefit equally.
At the moment, we are having a situation where one stakeholder is bulldozing everything for their own benefit and pushing aside the resources owners. This will cause problem for this country in the future. So it is about time now to look at it.
In the past 10 years, Papua New Guinea has seen a rise in explorations in the oil, gas and mining sector. More explorations are ongoing with new mines and project sites identified. Mr. Paraya says if all stakeholders are given the attention needed, the standard of living, including goods and services, will improve in many communities where mining or oil and gas projects are in operation.
I'm appealing to all the investors in the country to be fair to the citizens so that all of us can share the benefit. I think there's enough for all of us.
Jack Lepave Jr., National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, Mr. Paraya has urged the national government not to renew the Pogera Special Mining Lease Agreement. Mr. Paraya says landowners demand an investigation into the issuing of water permits by the mining operator. Landowners say severe damages were done but remain unreported.
Now we're looking at Pogra. You will make a better deal because the mining life or mining development contract and the mining lease is expiring in 2019. And as far as Resource Owners Federation is aware, they don't want to renew their mining lease until their claims for the breaches of their agreement and the ownership rights to have more equity in the mine is heard by the government.
Oil Search continues to upskill Papua New Guinea's geologists, geophysicists and engineers with world-class training. 8 nationals participated in a 2-day training on petrophysical interpretation to learn about the type of petrophysical tools, how to interpret data, and easy methods of screening data at the Oil Search office in Port Moresby. This is the second course following on from the sequence stratigraphy course held earlier in August. The training was conducted by Ray Spicer, a petrophysical advisor with Oil Search. A key motivating factor behind these courses is to build up geoscience capability and knowledge in Papua New Guinea. Still to come on National EMTV News, the online selection for students launched today. Youth in the city given opportunities through the Urban Youth Program and local farmers getting more for their produce. Stay tuned. Welcome back to National EMTV News. The Urban Youth Employment Project has achieved results since 2013. Deputy Project Manager Dr. Matthias Liu says under this program, over 1,000 youth have graduated and contributed to the country's economic development. Most of these are aged between 16 and 35.
The Urban Youth Employment Project Pre-Employment Training, in partnership with PNG IEA College of TAFE and the Port Moresby Technical College, saw 364 passing out with flying colors at the 24th graduation.
Last but not least,
these young men and women have attained knowledge and skills in their field of study, looking forward to seeking employment. Training Coordinator Kini Karo expressed his gratitude to the program's achievement.
After our 20-day training, they go for 5 months OJT, and after that it's up to them whether they stay engaged in a job or look for another job. Sometimes the company that holds them in OJT keeps them for their staff. Yeah, so it's a very good program. We hope it continues in the future, maybe in a different way, but it's still a very good thing that our youth are taken off the streets.
Arthur Cicero, a young man aged 26, experienced life change through this training after being pushed out by the formal education system.
I dropped out in grade 10, year 10, and then I lost hope, but somehow I came to realize this project. I went through it, and I'm very proud to be one of the trainees in the project. And like now, I'm good. I think I have the skills and knowledge.
The management of the Urban Youth Employment Project are very enthusiastic about the graduates and excited to see this project infiltrate into the other provinces in the country.
The project is being expanded. The government has given us an okay to expand the project to other centers, and at the moment they are looking at Lae, Mount Hagen and Kokopo, so that it can also benefit youths in those 3 cities.
Lillian Kinea, National EMTV News.
Teachers in Morobe province will be paid the full leave fares by Friday or early next week. The Provincial Education Division, together with the Morobe Provincial Administration, have committed 8 million kina for teacher leave fares. This comes after the Treasury Department announced that teachers would be paid half of their leave fares.
Morobe's Administration and Education Division managed to secure funds from the provincial government to make available the 8 million kina. The Provincial Program Advisor for Education, Keith Jiram, said the commitment made was to compensate the teachers for their service teaching in the province. Jiram said the teachers' leave fares would be paid in full by Friday or early next week.
Teachers will get 100% the leave fares they apply for, and they will go home. We've made this commitment because we need to appreciate, we need to show our commitment for the teachers, for their commitment to teaching Papua New Guineans.
I don't know when is the list for teachers' leave fares will come out, but if it is this week, then it is also a change for Morobe. But if it is next week or the week after, then there is no change.
A senior teacher at Era Primary School outside of Lae, Mrs. Agnes Kauke, says the Education Division has responded well to the teachers' entitlements and teachers' postings for next year.
Okay, for this year's response was very excellent. They are well organized and they are given the credit for this year, 2017 posting and leave fare and even grade 8 result too, which was very interesting.
It came out early where teachers can see their postings and prepare for the next year's teaching, and even they see the postings before they go for Christmas holiday.
However, Jiram said there are currently more than 500 vacancies for 2018. New graduates with proper documents will fill the vacancies.
Any new graduates that come to us in 2018 without a teaching certificate will be rejected. Any new graduates that do not come with appropriate documents, transcripts, will not be accepted. Thirdly, the certificates that their GPA is below 2 will also be rejected.
Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Lae.
Still in Morobe, Lae MP John Rosso has challenged Ward 2 residents in Lae to take ownership of services given to them. Today, Mr. Rosso officiated at the opening of a new staff house for the Sir Bob Sinclair Clinic. The clinic and staff house were funded by longtime Lae resident and businessman Sir Bob Sinclair, who says it is an honor to give back to the communities. The house will accommodate the clinic's officer in charge. The house cost 400,000 kina and maintenance of both facilities will be taken care of by the Lae Builders Company. The Fire Service of Papua New Guinea will commemorate its 50th anniversary with a parade this Friday. This will be the first time the Fire Service will host such an event to celebrate its existence in the country. Governor-General Grand Chief Sir Bob Dadai will officiate. 10 provincial fire station commanders have arrived in Port Moresby for this prestigious occasion. The Fire Service was a department in the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary until it was separated following an Act of Parliament. A newly established business in Lae, PNG On Demand, hosted a SME meeting that brought together small business owners. More than 90 small business owners in Lae attended the event, an avenue where they could identify their potential clients.
The meeting was organized for SME business owners and clients to know each other and create connections. The event was organized by PNG On Demand, a newly established business in Lae, and Talkstraight Consulting Limited.
To look at what the needs of the SMEs are, number one is the networking, and number two is of course the need to be able to get an affordable renting space for the SMEs. Number three, we have the need to be able to address advertising and marketing, and number four, we have an SME mentoring and development program.
The marketing and ads coordinator for PNG On Demand Limited, Robert Kopana, said This is the third meeting the businesses organized to connect SMEs in Lae. Mr. Kupana said through statistics collected, 90% of the SMEs who attended are operating at homes and do not have access for networking.
Because they cannot be able to afford the rental fees given in prime locations in town.
SMEs are increasing in Lae City. People have the potential to operate their own businesses that can eventually grow or cease. Julian Terry from Talkstrat Consulting Limited said such events organized helps SMEs to establish and strengthen their business activities so they continue to grow.
We come in to help people like that, to provide a pathway, to fill that gap, to help the SMEs, to get the businesses registered properly with the IRC, with the IPA, with the banks, so that they can be able to comply with the regulations of the countries.
From our own figures, the SME market in BSP, Momase, is the largest in BSP network.
Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Lae.
Goilala District Development Authority has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Works Department to upgrade the Tapini Highway from Aro Pokena to Tapini Station. The MOU signals the commencement of upgrade and maintenance of the 100-kilometer of road. Goilala MP William Sam said 200,000 kina from the District Services Improvement Program will be committed for this project. The Central Provincial Government also committed 100,000 kina from its Provincial Services Improvement Program for the construction phase. It will cost approximately 100 million kina to upgrade and get it completely sealed. Local farmers in Enga province are already earning money by selling their fresh produce in bulk to the Surunki Agro Farm. So far, the Israeli and Enga provincial government-owned agro farm has exported over 60 tons of vegetables to Port Moresby. State ministers and dignitaries from donor countries have already visited developments at the Surunki Agro Farm.
The first shipment of potatoes from Surunki Agro Farm to Port Moresby is already in the shopping centres such as Vision City and Harbour City. Surunki Agro Farm is expected to export 10 to 20 tons per day to Port Moresby and other shops in the country, but it cannot be able to meet the demands. Local farmers in Enga province have been urged to plant carrot, garlic, bulb onion and potato to sell to Surunki Agro Farm at a cost of 2 kina per kilo. In the last 3 weeks, local farmers have sold 61 tons of their fresh produce to the agro farm. The money received is equivalent to 122,000 kina already in the farmer's pocket.
Right now we have 350 farmers, contact growers. We are encouraging them, we are doing extension work, we encourage them to plant carrot, potato, bulb onion, strawberry and garlic. And when they grow them, they bring it to Kaluma, our farm here, and we buy it from them. And from here, the Israel company send it to Moresby, to all the supermarkets in Moresby for sale.
Surunki Agro Farm used to be the fighting zone of the people of Surunki in Enga province. Enga provincial government under the private-public partnership partnered with the Israeli government and created the farm as a way of addressing law and order in Surunki and encouraging locals to farm. Farmers in the other highlands provinces are also encouraged to sell their fresh produce to the agro farm. Surunki Agro Farm acts as a research and testing farm and a market for local farmers to sell.
We are expecting some 10 to 20 tons per day, but Enga cannot meet them, so farmers in the islands can come. We are open for that. This is not for Enga only, this is for this country, for grassroots people of this country. We are trying to put money into people's pocket. And it's one of the Peter Ibrahim's high impact project that has successfully been implemented in the province.
Enga provincial government is trying to put money directly to locals so that they can be money oriented. Highlands farmers are lucky to have a market in place which buys 2 kina for a kilo. Other markets buy 1 kina per kilo, and sometimes hardworking farmers earn less money. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
And now looking at the finance news, the kina closed unchanged at $0.3105 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, a kina was buying $0.303 $0.3971 Australian dollars, $0.2542 euro, and 34.04 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher, copper closed higher, while coffee and cocoa closed the day lower. Crude oil is trading higher, while palm oil and copper closed the day lower. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones is up 118 points, the ASX is up 8 points, and the All Ordinary is up 9 points. National EMTV News continues after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to National EMTV News. Papua New Guinea's first online selection of students into higher education institutions was launched today, and the Higher Education Department will save around 6 million kina in costs used in the student selection process purely on administrative and logistics like airfares and accommodation for selectors. The selection process, which started today, will see tertiary institutions selecting students in the next few days, with a final list expected by next week.
A milestone achievement for the Higher Education Department is the launching of the students' online selection by Minister responsible Pila Ninengi and Enga Governor Sir Peter Ipotas. By next week, 28,000 grade 12 school leavers will know the academic results and their placements for next year.
You see the ID, you see the grades, you don't see the province and the name. So once the institution will accept those students, then the name will come up and the province.
The strategic plan developed is to help as many students to gain entry into tertiary institutions for quality education.
As part of this strategy, the Department of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology has been looking for ways to improve how it can facilitate the national selections. Our objective is to promote transparency and accountability, and most importantly, increase the probability to capable and eligible school leavers in being admitted or selected, while ensuring institutions' autonomy in selection process is maintained.
Minister Ninengi hopes for the entire higher education sector connected to ICT-based learning and teaching. This will deal with nepotism-related complaints during the manual marking process.
The online selection should resolve a long overdue or outstanding issue or complaints that parents and students have, so it no longer be the case.
Once the students' list has been identified by the system, institutions will then select their candidates. Father Young says the list will then be verified by DHEST before being published. He also added as of 2018, all students' travel tickets arrangement will be administered by higher learning institutions. Stacey Yalo, National EMTV News.
Turning overseas now, more has been revealed about the man who detonated a homemade bomb in a New York subway tunnel. The 27-year-old Bangladesh posted a message to the president on his Facebook page hours before the bungled attack, saying Trump failed to protect his nation.
Authorities have now spoken to the family of Akayed Ullah, both here in the United States and in his home nation of Bangladesh, with the Bangladeshi government confirming that the 27-year-old did not have a criminal record when he immigrated to the United States on a family visa in 2011. That undermines Donald Trump's calls for immigration reform in the wake of the attack, given it's possible Ullah was radicalised here in the US. The White House has offered no evidence about where the suspect was in fact radicalised, defending the president's calls for reform.
The president is exactly right to call attention to these issues. How did it happen? An individual won the lottery in Bangladesh. He came here. He then, through the chain migration process, brought his sister, and she brought her son, 20 years old, and he's the one that attempted to blow up the subway.
The 27-year-old has told police he was motivated to harm Americans in retaliation for US airstrikes in Syria, saying he'd been inspired by Christmas terror attacks in Europe and selected the Port Authority bus terminal after seeing a number of festive posters on the subway walls. He allegedly posted on Facebook the morning of the attack, quote, "Trump, you failed to protect your nation," according to a criminal complaint. Ula has now been charged with state and federal terrorism offences. He remains in a serious condition in hospital.
In Beijing, thousands of people are being forced from their homes as the city has launched a campaign to tear down what they call illegal structures that often house migrants.
Armed with sledgehammers and a government mandate, workers broke down doors and kicked people out of their homes, forced evictions as Beijing's winter sets in. A few days later, we meet Zhao Guihua, who wants $3 for the kettle but settles on $2.50. A week ago, the kettle and the rest sat in her tiny apartment in South Beijing. Now it's all laid out for sale in freezing temperatures on a dirty street. Our apartment was demolished, she says. I'm sad. I'll be homeless. She and other rural migrants had been living in this building, but on November 25th, this notice went up. Tenants, please clean out before November 26th at 5 p.m. or there will be consequences. As promised, the government showed up the next day. Within hours, crews left the building uninhabitable. We walked through to see walls stripped bare, windows broken, ceilings torn down, and signs that residents had left in a hurry.
They had to leave some stuff behind. I mean, there's shoes still on this rack right here. Inside this bedroom, there's a mattress still on the frame. There's clothes in that dresser right behind me. They're all examples that show how fast these people were forced to leave their homes.
It's all part of a government campaign to rid the capital of what it calls illegal structures. This after a fire last month killed 19 people in Beijing's Daxing neighborhood. Though often unsafe, these types of structures are all most migrants can afford. Critics accuse the government of using that fire as an excuse to force hundreds of thousands of poor migrants out of the city and back to where they came from. The government denies that. In a rare open letter, dozens of prominent Chinese intellectuals call the evictions, quote, a vicious incident that breaks the law and tramples on human rights. The evictions have prompted an outcry online, and not surprisingly, authorities have censored talk of the issue on Chinese internet. And on the streets, security has been deployed to keep order, including these plainclothes enforcers who tried to stop CNN from shooting here.
This is a public street. Why are you interfering?
And back outside Zhao Guihua's apartment, there's 24-hour security, as we saw for ourselves.
So what's happening right now is that we're being forced to leave the building because the security guards say that it's not safe. They don't want us to film, even though residents are still having to come in here to try and collect their stuff. I mean, it clearly isn't that safe. There's broken glass on the ground, but it shows you the struggle that these residents are facing. They want their stuff, but these guys won't let them get it.
This place once welcomed migrant workers. Many worked low-end jobs in construction and restaurants, and now some are being forced to leave the city they helped build. I have no choice but to go, Zhao says. We can't find housing. It's time to go home.
You're watching National EMTV News. Trukai Sports is next. PNG disqualified in the 4x100-meter women's relay final at the Mini Pacific Games. Stay with us for the details.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin at the Mini Pacific Games, and Papua New Guinea's men's and women's relay teams lost to rivals Fiji in the 4x100-meter finals today in Vanuatu. The women's relay team was unfortunately disqualified in the final, leaving Fiji on top of the podium with a gold medal finish. Similar to the women's race, it was a photo finish for Team PNG and Fiji in the men's race, with both teams crossing the line together. However, PNG tipped Fiji off Fiji tipped PNG with just split seconds differential to seal an all-Fiji rain relay finals. Meanwhile, Relly Kaputin and Annie Topal smashed the women's triple jump final after winning gold and silver respectively. With most of the sports winding down at the Mini Pacific Games in Vanuatu today, PNG bagged a couple more gold medals in the track and field events. PNG picking up 25 gold medals, 19 silver and 17 bronze for a total of 61, just behind New Caledonia, who is leading the medal tally with 41 gold, 13 silver and 9 bronze for a total of 63 medals. Fiji is third with 50 medals in total. Women's beach volleyball and basketball are expected to play their finals tomorrow prior to the closing ceremony. And there are possibilities for West Papua to compete in future Pacific Games. In the recent annual general meeting in Vanuatu, the Pacific Games Council discussed ways to include countries within the region to be part of the largest sporting event. Apart from West Papua is Papua New Guinea's autonomous region of Bougainville. Others are Christmas Island, Easter Island and Hawaii. These countries in future will become associate members with certain voting rights. Now moving on, PNG Powerlifting has big plans for the future to identify and scout talent, develop the code and prepare athletes for the next Pacific Invitational and World Championships. Team manager Phil Priestley has plans for PNG to host the 2020 Pacific Invitational.
Papua New Guinea, Morton Titus.
After their performance at this year's Oceania Pacific Invitational in Singapore, PNG Powerlifting has big plans ahead. Team manager Phil Priestley says powerlifting has to be promoted in the country. The Talent ID programs will be rolled out around the country to identify potential powerlifters.
What we're trying to do is to actually formulate powerlifting the way it should be. Now that Michael's come on board and he's got the equipment that we need and what have you, it's a chance for us now to really put powerlifting together. There was a young girl in the PNG Games who really shone and did very, very well. So we're trying to develop a team of different age groups and different categories so that we can take over and, you know, when we go to the next Pacific Invitational in Sydney, and then we got the world titles coming up in June, which Linda's already qualified for, you know, so it's her chance to really go out and show the world that, you know, she's still got it.
While Pacific Games facilities are of international standards, it is possible for PNG to host the 2020 Pacific Invitational.
I put my hand up and says that, you know, possibly PNG would like to host one in 2019. But as it turned out, somebody had already booked 2019. So we're going to try and, you know, speak to the government and what have you and see if we can host it in 2020, which just on a monetary value alone for the amount of people that come to these Oceania meetings from the different countries around the world, you know, I mean, here we have Pakistan and, you know, then the Pacific Islands and what have you. And it could be beneficial to the country because we've got all these beautiful sporting venues and, you know, we don't get a chance to show them off very much, but with a sport like powerlifting, you know, we held it at the Pacific Games in 2015 at the Sejongkai Stadium very successfully. There's no reason we can't do it again. And
while the code has been neglected, Phil says it's about time the government steps in to support the country's sporting ambassadors.
And, you know, we've been let down by the government. We were promised all sorts in 2015. It's never happened. And so we've gone outside for private sponsorship, and which we've got now. So I hope the government will rip a leaf out of this book and come on board somewhere down the track the next 12 months.
Phil says current lifter to look out for in the future is Vagi Henry, who comes from Hanuabada village in the Central Province, who has the potential of becoming one of the world's best. Pacific's best and world powerlifting champion Linda Paulson has urged young women to try out powerlifting and join the code. She says while PNG lifting is slowly raising its game, more young people can be identified to become PNG's next powerlifters.
Typical of all of our athletes. We have a number of athletes who, even though they're masters age,
they want to compete in open because they see that age is no barrier and they feel that they still have plenty of fuel in the tank and they want to show the young ones how it's done. And so I think that takes a lot of courage. I'm very proud of them.
Meanwhile, the next event to look forward to will be the next Pacific Invitational in Sydney and the World Championships in Canada. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Don't go away. True Kai Sports continues after these messages. Stay tuned.
True Kai Sports.
Welcome back to True Kai Sports. Gulf Governor Chris Haiveta has supported newcomers Gulf ISO's application to join the Intercity Cup competition. He has made his stance clear on existing rugby league team, the Gulf ISA pair.
If you see our flag, which is...
Gulf Governor Chris Haiveta clarified that the Gulf ISA pairs team is privately owned and does not come under the Gulf provincial government.
ISA pair is not owned by the provincial government and has private ownership, wholly owned privately, and that its records were not in order.
He says he is committed to supporting the ISA pairs franchise once they sort out issues with their league and re-enter the Intercity Cup competition next year.
We'll assist ISA pair and other teams that are of Gulf origin, both here and in Lae. Be it rugby league or basketball or netball or volleyball or soccer, on a case-by-case basis, as long as they meet the guidelines, through affiliation or otherwise under the auspices of the Sports Trust.
The provincial government introduced the Gulf Provincial Sports Trust, which will take charge of all sports development in the province, including new team Gulf ISAUs.
I put a position to my cabinet and we have come up with a plan of our own, which is basically to establish a trust where all sporting activities in the province will be coordinated from and managed and run from.
GPST has shown successful results following the recent PNG Games, from second last at the previous Games to finishing 9th on the medal tally. The recent success has seen Petroleum Resources Kutubu committing 1 million kina in 2018 to the Sports Trust operations.
So, that, together with what provincial government will give, plus other corporate sponsors that it'll secure, will ensure that there is adequate funding to carry out all activities that it intends to do over a 4.5 years development program.
Their main aim is to get young people involved in sports and build on from the junior level into semi-professional athletes. With the support of the Gulf Provincial Government and sports administrators involved in the GPST, the province is set to be a force in upcoming inter-provincial games. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
To cricket abroad, England is preparing for a do-or-die clash in the third Ashes Test starting tomorrow in Perth. The Aussie selectors are yet to make a call on the team.
Well, when it comes to the WACA, the first thing discussed is always the pitch. How much bounce will there be? How quick will it be? Well, the selectors and Steve Smith had a long look at the pitch today. It is very green. Smith spoke a short time ago and said that that pitch will determine what the team looks like. They haven't yet made up their mind whether it'll be Mitch Marsh or Peter Hanscom in the side tomorrow.
We're going to have another look at the wicket tomorrow and then decide in the morning, I guess, whether we need the extra bowling option or not.
Mitch Marsh has obviously been in the spotlight for his possible selection. Smith says he's been impressed with the development of Marsh as a batsman.
Watching him in the last couple of days in the nets and watching some of the the live feed of the Shield games, I think he's tightened up a lot in defence, which helps him.
England, of course, looking to salvage at the very least a draw here at the WACA. Otherwise, the series is over and the Ashes will return to Australia. The third test starts here at the WACA tomorrow, and something a little different for the Perth test. Rain is forecast for Sunday and Monday.
And that ends True Kai Sports. The weather details when we come back.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Cloudy periods expected in Port Moresby and Daru. Rain and drizzle expected in Kerama, Alotau and Popondetta. To the Momasa region, rain expected in Lae and thunderstorms in Madang, Vivek and Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, drizzly rain expected in Buka and Lorengau, thunderstorms in Kavieng, Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg, all these major centers can expect heavy rain and thunderstorms.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
Before we go, a recap of our top stories again. Lae MP calls for an urgent meeting tomorrow with evicted residents. The body of a senior police officer found after drowning in the Tapo River in Madang. And PNG disqualified in the women's relay at the Mini Pacific Games. And that's the way it is this Wednesday, the 13th of December 2017. On behalf of the news team, pleasant viewing. Good night.